This is Theories and Applications of Organizational Communication, and this is our practical application lecture discussing how groups and collaboration apply to the real-world challenge of climate change. We're going to review our main topics lecture and how its key points apply to climate change, covering incentives, disagreements, influence processes, and groupthink. Basically, we're going to look at how and why it's so difficult to collaborate and work in effective groups for good decision-making around climate change. First, let's look at incentives. Are there incentives to communicate and problem solve effectively around climate change? On a national scale in the United States, not really. With a two-party system that seems to have reached all-time highs of contention and who do not share a vision of addressing climate change, there is no incentive to collaborate. In this current climate, politicians generally seek the reward of election or re-election as opposed to having any kind of incentive to develop effective long-term collaboration to address a difficult challenge such as climate change. Basically, to create the appropriate incentives for collaboration around climate change, we would need to depoliticize climate change so it is not used as a tool for election by creating a general social acceptance of it as a problem that must be resolved and an expectation that all policymakers do so and be rewarded for doing so. Second, let's look at disagreements, which can be central to group decision-making processes and outcomes, but only when they aren't communicated in a hostile or verbally aggressive way. Climate change tends to be a heavily politicized issue and one that can evoke deep frustrations. We are neither trained in, nor is it culturally common today, at least within the United States, to stay friendly, polite, and respectful while discussing charged, politicized topics. While it is natural to feel emotional about issues that will have such a huge impact on our futures, especially as a young person who will inherit the worst impacts of an issue that older generations have largely failed to address, it is difficult to reach collaborative and productive decisions when disagreements are discussed with hostility. Thirdly, let's look at influence processes, both informational and normative. Informational influence, when a person accepts others' knowledge as evidence about reality, is the most effective, leading towards long-term change. This is a unique challenge in the face of waves of fake information online and social media and news algorithms that only present information that reinforces a user's previous views. Regarding normative influences in which social rewards are offered or threatened to induce change, people may take a stance on climate change that is acceptable to their in-group in order to be accepted, which may be a superficial response to the issue, either to deny it as real or to act on it as a threat. The ideal is that informational influences are at play in groups when examining climate change, but this requires that reliable and trusted information sources are presented and communicated in appropriate ways for the group. Lastly, regarding groupthink, this has a significant impact on climate change responses. It actually may be one of the best reasons for us to try to understand why good groups make bad decisions, or in this case, why entire populations, such as the United States, have not managed to take collective and effective action on climate change. Perhaps millions of cases of groupthink have added up over time. Let's break that down a bit more, and I can give an example. A prominent CEO I know who works in the agricultural sector, who is also deeply concerned about climate change, confessed to me that he refused to bring it up during a board meeting because proposed changes would undercut their ability to increase their profit that year, and he did not want to go against the majority's opinion. So he self-censored to avoid contradicting the majority's opinion. Collective rationalization is also rife and common around climate change, or ignoring negative information that contradicts the opinion held by the majority. There are, unfortunately, many groupthink forces at play when groups collaborate to make decisions that cause climate change considerations to fail to be mentioned, such as illusions of invulnerability, self-censorship, mind guards, direct pressure, belief in inherent morality, and more. To conclude, there are challenges preventing effective collaboration in groups around climate change topics, and decision-making is often not optimal in its face. These processes, groups, collaboration, decision-making, and the organizational communication that surround them do have real-world impacts. And if we understand them, we can try to improve them to improve our outcomes. That's it for now, and the next topic we're going to cover is gender, difference, and intersectionality.